If you're a business owner or entrepreneur, then you know how to hustle. You show up every day, you put in the work, and you dedicate yourself day in and day out to making that amazing dream come true. But building a brand doesn't always go as planned. Sometimes it feels like no matter how hard you try, you just can't get past a certain block, fix a specific problem, or take that next step on a daunting project. How do you get yourself from where you are to where you want to be? That's when you ask Amanda. Hi, I'm Amanda Benson-Tilch of Ask Amanda, a boutique consulting firm driven by passion and good ideas. I help solve everyday problems for the small business owner, from customer service to marketing to goal setting. I've never met a client I wasn't able to help, because if I can't solve your problem myself, I'll connect you to the person who can. Are you ready to finally break through your toughest problems? Visit askamandaconsulting.com to see how I can help. Because if you ask me, you'll get a solution.
Welcome to the Ask Amanda Show, where we solve everyday problems for the small business owner. Get nuggets of inspiration, access to experts, and answers to those burning questions preventing you from growth. Here's your host, Amanda Benson-Tilch.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Ask Amanda Show. I am sitting here with one of my good friends, Brian Kegley, and I'm thrilled that he actually agreed to do this show.
Of course, anytime for you.
I feel like I might have had to twist your arm, but no, I'm very thankful that you're here because he is going to add a lot of value to you guys as small business owners. So please just take a pause, get a notepad and a pen, and we're going to dive into some really good questions. Let me tell you a little bit about Brian in case you don't know who he is. Brian Kegley, he is the attorney and partner at Poole Shaffery Koegle. Congratulations once again. I'll keep saying that.
Thank you.
His specialty is on labor and employment law, which is why I have him here today. With a focus on labor and employment law, Brian provides counsel to employers in a large number of industries with regard to hiring practices, employment contracts, wage and hour issues, compensation, discipline, and termination matters. All of these things are the reason why I asked him to be here today. And before we kind of dive into some of those questions I thought would be relevant to the audience, I want to just ask some personal questions a little bit about. But why don't you tell me, what is your favorite thing about what you do?
I just love helping people. I love helping small business owners who candidly have no clue how to navigate the rules of the road when it comes to employment and labor law, whether you're a California employer, which happens to be my specialty, or if you're just a business that has a location anywhere within the United States. The rules are not that difficult once you know them. The problem is knowing what applies to you, knowing how to apply them to your business, and then effectively managing through problems and issues that come up. And all too often, you get business owners who are doggone good at running their business, but who have no idea how to comply with the law.
Yeah, or have access to them.
That's correct.
So I feel like that's, you being resourceful is one of the things that, like, you'd be my resource for like all the questions I would have about, which we're going to dive into later today. Yeah. But like, how to hire somebody properly, how to terminate somebody properly, independent contractors, questions about that. I mean, like, so where do you go to find all those things? You need a trusted resource.
I mean, the problem that we have right now is the fact that there are so many Google lawyers out there at this point, Amanda. Right. I mean, everybody comes, oh, well, I read this on Google. Well, that's great, but that's nine years old. And, by the way, it doesn't take into account any of these other three issues.
Yeah. Or updates.
Exactly. So, I mean, one of the coolest parts of my job is being able to do things like this, right? Mm-hmm. I get to get education out into the hands of business owners so that they know. Now, listen, at the end of the day, it's your business. You can choose whether or not to follow the regulations, whether or not to take the risk of being non-compliant. But candidly, that's your business decision. Yeah. As long as you know, you get to make that fully informed decision. So that's why I like to do events like this.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite things about you. You're charismatic and you're very well spoken and whatever. Little compliments go a long way. But you're so knowledgeable and you're able to share it in such a personable way that it does make it easy for small business owners to understand what you're saying. You know, these Google lawyers will just spit law and things at you and you don't know what they're saying. You make it very relatable to whoever you're talking to their business, which I find very helpful.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah. So what is, and just one other quick question, what is one thing that most small business owners need to get better at? Maybe there's more than one thing.
That's a lot. I think we're going to talk about 12 of them today.
Right.
No, listen,
Right.
when it comes to business decisions, when it comes to employment decisions, unfortunately, business owners operate from a place of scarcity. They run out of responsive or reactive as opposed to being proactive.
Right.
If I could get in front of business owners and say, look, if you could spend 3 hours a year being proactive, so we can eliminate or reduce your risk or your liability, we can make sure that your people are happy, that you're recruiting and retaining the best possible talent for your business. It's a very minimal investment up front. But unfortunately, business owners just get lost, and they have hyper-focused laser vision because they're like, I want to make sure that I'm increasing profitability or increasing revenues or whatever, and they're not thinking about the big picture. If I could get them to step back, understand we do have a bigger picture, and then just spend a minimal amount of time per year on these issues, it would go a long way.
So I'm just making a note because I feel like this is something I'm going to talk about with my clients when I meet with them when we're developing their strategic plan, is adding somebody like you, like your services, to their agenda quarterly, because like that little review would probably help them a long way, because you're right. As solo entrepreneurs or business owners, we're so busy. What are we marketing to? Customer retention, client retention, like all of it. So we're not really thinking about, we tend to be more reactive than proactive, and that always hurts us.
Well, and quite candidly, we offer a service through our firm where we basically offer our clients our conference room to host their quarterly or annual meetings. So they can come in, if there are multiple business owners, they can all come and centralize, and then we spend basically an hour with them going, okay, did you make sure that you filed your statement of information with the California Secretary of State? Did you update your meeting minutes? When was the last time you reviewed your bylaws? And then where are we with your employment policies and procedures? You feel good, you feel neutral, you feel bad about them, and then we talk about what those changes need to look like. That type of service where we are attempting to become the trusted advisor, right? We want you to come to us first and say, we don't know what we don't know, and let us fill in the gaps for you.
Yeah. And also review, because businesses change. As your business grows, your goals and what your services, everything changes. So it's even more crucial just knowing that.
Well, let me give you a little anecdote. I dealt with a smaller but mid-sized business, about 100 to 200 employees, and they came in and they asked to have their policies reviewed. And I sat down and I said, you have some very strange policies here, especially your vacation plan. Where did you come up with this? Oh, well, we took this from the old business that we left when we came and started our business. I said, wow, so do you actually do this policy? And the answer was, no, we've never done that policy. I'm like, well, it's in your handbook. It's in all of your policies. You've actually written it into your payroll procedures, but you're not practicing what you preach. And that's a huge area where employers get in trouble.
Yeah, because then the employee is going to say, no, wait, it says right here.
That's exactly right.
See, already learning, you guys, already learning. Well, let's dive into a couple things as we're going here, because this is just going to be, I know you're going to have so much information to share. I love it.
I hope so.
Can you help provide maybe 5 or so best practices for hiring? And I know some of these will be probably embedded into our employee handbook, which is crucial, but like just tips on how to hire. I know for the gym, the gym that I run, we hire around our core values, and I don't I stick to that. If you don't meet one of those, I'm just, so nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in, and you're on your way.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I also put everybody through my whole front desk team, and if they like them, then it comes to me.
Oh, nice.
Because they have to work with them. They have to train them. So that's one of our best practices about how we hire too.
Well, the other thing about that is you get buy-in from your existing staff.
Right.
When you talk about retaining talent, if people feel invested in the business, that's a great retention tool. I commend you on that. That's a great idea.
I also don't even let them bring me a resume until they've actually scouted them out first.
Well,
then I'll say, go ahead and set it up, and then let me know what you think.
Well, and going back to what I just said a few minutes ago, too many business owners are reactive, right? And the number one thing that I tell businesses when it comes to hiring procedures, especially for California businesses, is we get it backwards. We hire fast because we're so desperate. We need a body. We need somebody with a pulse and a heartbeat to operate that machine or to make sales, etc. And then the person gets in and you realize this person doesn't fit with our culture. This person doesn't understand what it means to actually be dedicated or disciplined in their craft. Or they're a cancer within our workplace. And I use this analogy not lightly, not flippantly, understanding how serious cancer is, but candidly, a bad employee can be a cancer to your workplace.
It'll kill everybody around. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And the problem with that then is, going through surgery to carve out that cancer and going through radiation or chemotherapy to cure that problem is very painful, very time consuming, and many times very expensive for a California business owner.
Yeah, that's right.
So instead of hiring fast and firing slow, and I'll talk about that one in a little bit, we should get it completely opposite. We should hire slowly. There should be multiple rounds of interviews. It should go through many eyes and ears to listen for red flags or warning signs on what is good and what is bad about this particular candidate. And then when you finally settle on someone, make sure that you are documenting everything that worked for this person so that there can't be a claim later on of, well, you discriminated against me because you didn't select me as a candidate, you selected someone else, and you don't have criteria to say this is why I picked candidate A or candidate B. Which leads me to the second topic on the 5 things that employees or employers need to do at hiring, which is documenting every step of the way, right? In California, I don't know if you know this, if you advertise for a position, you put an ad out on Indeed or you put an ad out on SCV Jobs or something like that. Did you know you're required to keep it for 4 years? If you don't keep a copy of that ad for 4 years, then you are actually out of compliance with the regulations of California.
Not live, you mean just keep the copy of the ad?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you keep a copy of that advertisement.
It's filled. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
And you're supposed to keep resumes that you have solicited or applications that you have solicited for no less than 3 years.
Didn't know that one. Are we writing this down, you guys? I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because if there is a claim of discriminatory hiring practices, you pick this type of person because they look a certain way, or they fall within a particular category of individual. You want to be able to go back and demonstrate and say, look, this is the category, or this is the group of people that we were selecting between for this position. Here's what we had in way of interviews, and this is why we picked the person we picked. So making sure you document every step of the way. And again, listen, employers, I hear you. I know you hate documentation. I know that it's a big pain in your rear ends and you want to just get back to making widgets or whatever it is your business does. But fundamentally, these tiny little things, even if you're just sending an email to a business partner or a hiring director, just 3 minutes out of your day can go a long way to protect you on a claim of discriminatory hiring practices.
I like it. Well, what are a couple other ones? Documentation was a good one.
Well, and again, documentation is, I want to give it a little subcategory of its own because there's also a checklist of items that every employer is mandated to have at the point of hiring an employee. Did you know that you're required to have what's called a Labor Code 2810.5 notice for every single non-exempt employee that works for you? This has been a rule since 2013. I've been preaching it since 2012 when the law was passed. Unfortunately, I would say that about 50% of employers in the state of California are not doing this. It's just a simple form provided by the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement that basically lays out who the employer is, the legal entity, the corporation, the LLC, if it's a sole proprietorship, who the person is that's running the business, when the payday periods are, how much the employee gets paid either per hour or per piece rate or commission, etc. And it lays out all of the other fundamentals of the hiring process. So if you don't have that form in your employee file for every single non-exempt employee, it's a $500 penalty for each employee you don't have it for. Little things. It's again a documentation requirement. But what I do is I've got a great handy dandy checklist that I do. It's called a new hire checklist. If anybody's interested, feel free to email me. I'll be glad to send it to you. No obligation, no cost whatsoever.
We'll put your email address here.
Absolutely.
So we can.
I'd be glad to get it in your hands because like I said, I want you to be educated. I want you to know what you need up front so that you're prepared.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
Happy to help.
Any more like little tips that you've got that or just on hiring?
Yeah, the one other thing about hiring that people do is you don't interview just one candidate. You don't hire the first person. Unfortunately, this again goes to the hire fast type routine.
Yeah.
Go out, figure out if you can cast a wider net. Make sure when you're looking for somebody for a particular position, you're not just looking for somebody who looks like you or talks like you or thinks like you. Bringing in diversity of thought, diversity of opportunities will make your business better. And unfortunately, a lot of times employers are just going, like I said, we need a warm body with a pulse and a heartbeat, and that will do.
Especially right now.
Well, especially right now.
But
although that's going to shift.
Yeah, I think so. And I do think we had Rachel Cosgrove on talking about teamwork.
Yep.
And what I really love that she said was like she tried to hire somebody that had skills she didn't have. Because if you're truly trying to build your team, you want somebody else to pick up your slack,
That's
basically.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
Well, thank you. I think these are really good tips. We're going to take a break with our sponsor. When we come back, I want to talk about independent contractors because that's a huge one. And I know that you're going to have some more helpful insight on that. So we'll be right back.
As business owners and professionals, you have so much on your plate. You never stop to think about your headshots, marketing video, or personal branding until you need it now. Then you're scrambling to figure out what to wear, how to match your brand, what to say, how to reach your target audience, and how to use your visuals in a way that actually makes an impact in your marketing.
You quickly realize you don't have any of the answers because you're not supposed to. You're not a professional marketer, model, or TV personality. You're an executive who needs efficiency, superior quality, and a little direction. You also want to feel good when you step in front of the camera, and maybe even have a little bit of fun too.
Hi, this is Brian and Lindsay Schlick with Schlick Art Photography and Video. We provide professional headshots, marketing photography, business videos, video subscriptions, and more to help you market your business with compelling visuals and a streamlined experience. We guide you through the process every step of the way so you can feel your best on camera and make the biggest impact in your marketing.
Visit schlickart.com to see how we can help you take your brand to the next level and look good while doing it.
Welcome back. Thank you for that word from our sponsors. We're here with Brian Kegley of Poole Shaffery Koegle talking about a lot of things, but labor laws and employment laws, things that would help small business owners, because I truly believe there's so much that we don't know. And I was just off camera telling him about how when I come back from listening to a talk from him and I go to, my boss basically, who owns a gym, he gets pissed. He's like, why'd you go see him? Because now we have to do all this stuff. But that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Because I wouldn't have known unless I went to go see you.
Well, and unfortunately, the old adage is true. The ostrich that buries his head in the sand is not better off. You're actually a lot worse off. Because if you had reason to know about the law and then you choose not to comply with it, the penalties are much, much stiffer, much worse for you. So I would rather you have the message and have the information so that you can make the fully informed decision on how you're going to come into compliance.
Yeah.
So don't be the ostrich.
You've made me smarter, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Well,
appreciate that.
and I mean, it's given me a little bit more work, but I feel more confident in being able to run the business now based on the knowledge that I have. So this is the benefit of today, you guys. So let's dive in and talk about independent contractors. I know this is a big thing in California, but I think it's helpful for everyone just to kind of understand what California's laws are and restrictions around that. Because I know a lot of businesses, I know a few businesses that will particularly hire outside of California so that they can avoid it. But I know that's tricky too. So why don't you tell me a little bit about, I know there's like the ABC checklist.
So we'll go through the ABC test, but I do want to kind of just give a little background. Obviously, California is always the tip of the spear as it applies to many areas of the law, not to mention employment law. So what we're talking about here with the ABC test right now is only applicable to the state of California. However, there are 6 states that offer similar programs, including Nevada, New York, Florida, Illinois, and Texas is just starting an ABC type program. But what's fascinating is President Biden has indicated that he wants to use the ABC model here in California at the federal level. And he's instructed to the United States Department of Labor to craft regulations so that it comes more in line with what the California standard looks like. Now, the Department of Labor is a little busy right now, as many of us know. They're trying to work on other regulations that are imperative. But that is one of the directives from the Biden administration. So we do anticipate that this will be a more widespread rule, probably within the next 18 months.
So it's good for us to really get a grasp of
Absolutely, because so many employers are like, well, fine, I just simply won't hire an independent contractor in the state of California. Well, listen, for today, that's a fine short-term solution. but that's not a great long-term fit for your business. So you need to be planning ahead, looking at what the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years looks like on this business model. So to abbreviate, the rule in California had generally been up until 2018 that the degree of control that a business owner operates over the person's work would be determinative as to whether they were an independent contractor or an employee.
Right.
The more control that they exercise, that the business owner exercises, the more likely it was an employment relationship. The less control, the more independent, then the more likely it was a contractor relationship. Well, the problem was it was a very subjective test, and there were inconsistent rulings from judges that just made this a mess. So a case made its way all the way up to the California Supreme Court back in 2018, known as Dynamics. It's not Dynamex, it's Dynamics Industries versus Superior Court. And in that decision, our Supreme Court in California came back and they held, we're going to change the standard across the board. We're going to create a new test. It's called the ABC test. And we're going to look at 3 elements that are really essential to whether or not the employee or the worker is an employee versus an independent contractor.
So this is the point where I would like for you to get your pad and paper, because this is going to be really helpful, what you say. I know it's coming.
Right. Well, and so without, I mean, this is an hour presentation that we're squeezing into 8 minutes, right? So I really want to focus on the B portion of the test, because this is where everybody is getting it wrong right now. In California, fewer than 8% of people who are designated as independent contractors actually satisfy Part B of the test. And it is the work that's being done separate and distinct from the purpose or directive of your business? What does that mean? If you're a widget maker, if it's anything to do with widgets, whether it's manufacturing the widgets, whether it's finalizing and quality assurance of the widget, whether it's selling the widget, whether it's administering the backroom bookkeeping work of the business, or packaging or distribution, all of those are going to be deemed in the course of the business. Therefore, they're not independent contractors.
Right.
And all too often what I get are, I've got business owners who come to me and say, look, I've got this huge order and I don't have the staff to handle it. I need to hire somebody quick and I need to bring them in to just do this one project.
Even if it's temporary.
Even if it's temporary, right. You know what that person's called? It's called a temporary employee.
Yeah, that's right.
You bring them in for 30 days. You bring them in for 90 days.
Yeah.
But they're an employee.
They're classified as employees.
That's exactly right. And obviously, listen, I understand the plight of the small business owner. It's expensive to hire people, especially in California. You've got the employer's portion of the tax. You have workers' compensation insurance. We have mandatory paid sick leave for all of these folks.
So much more money.
So much more money. I get why they're trying to save on those costs.
Which is why it's so hard to pay them a decent rate, because it's just even more money. I mean, I understand. Yeah. Okay, so that's the Part B.
Right. And so that's where most employers are getting this wrong. But again, just going over A and C, the A is basically the control of the work that's being done. Is the control centralized at the employer, or is the control being centralized at the contractor? And then the Part C is basically, is this an independent, customary business outside of whatever business it is that you're operating? Lawyers, accountants, marketing professionals, podcast presenters. These folks are still traditionally going to be viewed as independent contractors, right? But the problem is when you start getting into the weeds and you start splitting hairs on, well, is it really a customarily independent practice, or is it something that is more along the lines of ancillary to your business?
Like, I have a good example of this.
Great.
We brought on, for the gym, we had an independent contractor for a while. He was our video and photographer, and he was posting for us on social, but at my direction. He now is an employee. He's been an employee for a long time, but then now I gave him a desk and like he can use it whenever he wants. So like those classifications of what is being directed to them is one of the things I think we tend to overlook as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, I have folks who tell me all the time, well, you know, I always direct my attorney. I tell him what I want to do, or I tell my marketing person outside, you know, how many copies I want of a particular brochure. Those aren't the types of things that we're talking about discretion and control on.
Yeah.
Is there truly independent decision-making being made by that individual in their process, or are they following a script or a process that is part and parcel for your business?
Yeah, a process is the key. So that's so helpful, I feel like, for everybody that is listening. Where do you feel that, first of all, this I wanted to ask, what are the repercussions of I knew. If you do hire an independent contractor that should be an employee, how do you get caught? What are the repercussions when you do get caught?
Right. So right now there are three primary ways that employers are getting nabbed on their misclassification. Some of them you don't even have to have anybody who comes forward. It's simply the Employment Development Department here at the state of California is actually doing their own audits. I hate to say it this way, but the government coffers are running dry, and they have to find a way to rejuvenate the money that is being paid out in unemployment and state disability, et cetera. Well, one of the ways that they're doing this is a huge crackdown on independent contractors. And what ends up happening is the EDD takes a look at your tax returns. They determine how many 1099s you're sending out, at what level, meaning how many dollars are going out the door in your 1099s. And there are certain businesses that they just go, bang, 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 bang. We're going to pick you guys for an automatic audit. We're going to send you a list of documents that we want within the next 30 days. And if you get one of those letters from the EDD, you need to be afraid. Because if they're sending you an audit request, they already have enough information to probably nab you for misclassification. And the penalties can be significant. Well, it really depends on how egregious the circumstance is and how many independent contractors we're talking.
Does it have to do with the amount that you have paid these independent contractors?
Absolutely. Because the issue is going to be you didn't pay the employer's portion of the tax. And in a lot of these situations, the employee didn't pay enough of their own portion of the tax. That means it's on your head as an employer because you failed to classify them correctly. So, for instance, I just had a small business. They had 13 independent contractors, but they were all very high dollar independent contractors in translating services. The EDD came in, they did their audit, they confirmed misclassification that these folks should have been deemed employees, and the citation was $781,000 to this business.
Whoa.
For misclassification.
That's crucial.
Yeah.
That could shut you down.
It would have shut them down. So we went through an aggressive appeal process. We pitched a story that was a good narrative, not a great narrative, and we were able to get that number down to about $65,000.
Oh my gosh.
Still painful though, right?
Yeah, but still that's remarkable.
Right, but not many folks feel very comfortable about writing a $65,000 check to the government.
That's a huge lesson to learn.
That is exactly right.
Yeah. So it's good that you share that story because we want people to learn these lessons. That's why we're watching, or that's why you're here and they're on the show. But I think that is so helpful for a lot of business owners because I do believe that there's so much gray area in some of just these regular businesses like gyms and hair salons and like how to do it all. I know we've talked about these a few times. Yeah. You've worked with some of my clients already, but
well, and the other interesting thing is right after the ABC test came out, the legislature here in California made it a statutory requirement, meaning it's written into the labor code now, the ABC test. And what was fascinating was over the course of the last 2 years, since the beginning of 2020, we've seen a number of industries who have, quite honestly, thrown a ton of money in lobby money to the legislature in order to get specific carve-outs for their industry, one of which are hair and nail salons.
Yeah.
We're talking to the tune of millions of dollars in lobbying to basically pitch the legislature on why they shouldn't be deemed employees and why they should still be deemed independent contractors, right? And then there are other industries that you just shake your head at. Newspaper delivery folks.
Right, you would think.
Right? You're like, where did that lobby come from? And how do they have enough money to carve things out? But it's just really fascinating because there are areas where the legislature has said, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. On the flip side, we've got Uber and Lyft and Uber Eats that had to go to the ballot box in November of 2020. It passes, and it's still being subject to challenge at the court level.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. I mean, I understand, the concept of it, but it has definitely made it a big challenge for, first of all, for independent contractors to get work that don't want to be employees. That's right. And then also for employees, for employers, it's so costly to do so. So, well, this has been really helpful. I think a lot of you might need a drink after hearing that. So go pour yourself a drink. We're going to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back, I would like to talk about discipline and termination rules because I think that that's helpful. Absolutely. Kind of what we mentioned earlier on hiring smart and, hire slow, like do the whole thing. So we'll be right back with Brian, and we're going to chat more about some quality tips that are going to get you through, hopefully, the end of an employee, let's say.
How can I design something that's even bigger and better for my clients? With that question, I started exploring all these different avenues of what I thought clients really wanted from their financial advisor and started putting the pieces in place in order to make that happen. My name's Chris Ingram, and I'm the CEO and founder of Prosperitas Financial. What we're designing is something that truly isn't being done at the moment, where somebody has every piece lined up to make sure that we're advising in all aspects of somebody's financial life. We're making sure that wealth management is just a piece of it, but if we tie it all together, we're going to be more successful at helping the client reach their goals versus helping them have really good returns in the market. We're just doing a much more comprehensive style of wealth management.
At Prosperitas Financial, our planning process focuses on what's most important to you, identifying your goals for the future and addressing any obstacles standing in your way. If you're ready for your comprehensive financial plan, call Brooke Coffee at 661-255-9555, extension 120, or visit us online at prosperitasfin.com to schedule a complimentary consultation with our financial planning team.
Welcome back to the Ask Amanda Show. I'm here with my good friend and very smart attorney, Brian Kegley. We're discussing all things, labor related for small business owners. So far, the conversation has been very educational and also, right, if you're a small business owner.
That's a legal term, by the way.
Right, I think so too. I think so too. So I want to say thank you to our sponsors, because without them, none of this would be possible. I literally am indebted to you because I love doing the show. I love having people like Brian on, and I really hope that it's value to you guys. I hope you all been taking notes. So Brian, can we talk about some tips around wrongful termination, like how to avoid that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is what I do all day, every day, right? I mean, this has now become the number one area of litigation in the state of California. It is the hottest topic. Wrongful termination, whether it's harassment, discrimination, retaliation, or just general public policy terminations. So I'm going to go back to where we started today, which was instead of hiring fast and firing slow, we flipped that script. We hire slow, but we fire fast. Why? Because trust me, guys, you know within the first few weeks whether or not a person's the right fit for you, whether they are going to be someone who works out and be a long-term fit for you.
Can I ask a question around this? So is there still a thing as a
I know where you're going.
as a probationary period?
There's never been such a thing as probationary period in California. Why? Because California is an at-will state.
Yes.
An employee is on probation on day 1 and day 10,847. You may terminate them at any time, with or without notice, with or without cause, so long as the reason behind the termination decision doesn't violate California's public policy. If somebody comes in and they're wearing a purple shirt and you don't like purple shirts, you have the right to terminate.
And you've told them you're not wearing that purple shirt here.
And this is the thing. Do you terminate somebody for wearing a purple shirt? Probably
I
not.
understand.
Because they're going to come back with some sort of excuse. Oh, well, it's part of my religious accommodations. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You didn't accommodate me because of my colorblindness. So these are the types of things that you have to be careful about. And I'm being flippant about this statement, but it really does come down to there's no probationary period. But quite honestly, the longer that an employee goes on, the more likely there is an opportunity for something to go wrong, right? All of a sudden, somebody makes a stray comment about them. All of a sudden, they may have a stress-based claim, and all of a sudden, they're out on a workers' comp leave, so they now have a protected category there. A lot of the times, we deal with folks who were hired before they were 40, and then they're terminated after they were 40. And they turn around and say age discrimination, because in California, it's an age 40 threshold. Apparently, when we turned 40, we became...
Wait at me.
When you turn 40 someday...
I'm older than you.
I know.
All right. I didn't know that at age 40, California had that.
Yes.
Wow.
So these are the types of things, though, where, you have to be careful and pay attention to what's going on early on. Remember, just because you bring somebody in, you can't just throw them in the swimming pool and say, good luck, I'll be back in an hour. You have to watch that person and make sure they know how to swim.
Yeah.
If they don't know how to swim, they're going to drown, and their drowning is going to cost you money.
Yeah.
So once you figure things out and you realize the person's not the right fit, you start documenting, right? Because that's what your lawyer always tells you to do. You always document.
That's
the
like
reasons.
the third time we've heard that word, so I hope you guys are documenting that.
Everything in my world comes around documentation. Understand, if it's not documented, it didn't exist. Why? Because in California, although the presumption is in favor of the employer, legally speaking, if it comes down to a he said, she said, or she said, he said, and it's the employee's word versus yours, and you don't have documentation, you lose every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And that's where documentation is a saving grace.
Now, when you say documentation, is it something that you're not just writing it down, but you're getting them to sign off on it? Like you're also having a conversation with them?
Sometimes, not
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, candidly, do I prefer to see an opportunity for the employee to cure their
Right.
bad behavior,
Right.
especially if it's something that can be cured? Attendance, punctuality, failing to hit quotas, something along those lines where it's really material, tangible,
Yeah.
and you can lay it out. Yeah, I think you do need to sit down with an employee. I think you do need to have a discussion about where their performance is failing so that they have an opportunity to get things right. If not a legal mandate, it's just the right thing to do.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But documentation doesn't have to be a formal write-up. You don't have to have, 7 boxes and everything's checked and all parties sign it. No, this could be something as simple as sitting down and saying, listen, Tim, you've been late 7 times in the last 30 days. If there's something going on, you can let us know. We're going to work with you. But you need to understand that attendance is a key part of your role. And if you're not physically present on time, you're in violation of our policies. So this is now a scenario where I got to warn you that if it becomes a repeated issue, you will be subject to discipline, maybe even including termination. And then you go back to your desk. You type out an email to your business partner, the supervisor that is overseeing Tim. So I spoke with Tim today. I let him know he's been late 7 times in the last 30 days. I told him that if he doesn't improve his attendance and punctuality, we're going to have to let him go.
Okay. Simple. Print it out, put it in his file.
You got it.
Yeah.
You
That's
got
a
it.
big one.
Simple. But that's what the documentation comes down to.
Are you required or do you recommend showing that to them at the moment of termination?
So, I mean, this really comes down to, are you getting greater gains by showing them their bad behavior, or is it simply going to inflame and infuriate, right? And candidly, in California, if you're terminating an employee and you're not offering them a small severance as they're walking out the door, you're doing yourself a horrible disservice. It is a cheap insurance policy. Sometimes for as little as a few $100s, you can say, look, Tim, you know what? It just didn't work out. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. We want to make sure that you understand that this was just not something that worked for us. But we're going to offer you a small severance as you're walking out the door. In return, the employee is basically signing off that they're not going to bring a claim against you. So you avoid that wrongful termination suit that we were worried about.
Yeah.
It is my firm's custom habit and practice that everyone walking out the door when we terminate them is offered a severance. It is just a good practice across the board. Now, some folks say, well, what about resignations? If they walk out and they take another job. Well, there may be reason to offer severance in those circumstances too.
Oh, really?
Well, sure. I mean, what happens if this was a disgruntled former employee?
Right.
And they're like, take this job and shove it, boss, because I found a better deal over here and I'm
they-
fed up with my boss.
Yeah, they still can come back and hurt you.
Of
another
course
way.
they can.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is there are still some elements, California law is changing in January of 2021. There are still some elements that you can buy confidentiality on. That you can basically, you're buying your piece, but you're also making sure that they're not going to cause trouble, stir things up with other employees or other former employees for you.
Well, those people, we would have them sign like an NDA or something, right?
Isn't she cute, ladies and gentlemen?
How would you know?
NDA. Oh, yeah, because those are enforceable.
Right, I know.
Right.
I know.
This is California,
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
So, no, unfortunately.
Times have changed so much.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah,
just-
unless you're talking about a proprietary trade secret,
Yeah.
an NDA doesn't do you anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we offer severance agreements.
So that's interesting. I would not have thought of that when somebody's resigning to offer them a severance.
Yeah. And again, it's circumstantial. It's something that you have to take a look at the
and
totality.
This is not just for salary employees. This is for hourly. This is for anybody, right?
There's no such thing as salaried employees in the state of California. Salary doesn't mean anything. You could salary someone at minimum wage.
I need to learn all these new terms,
It's
you guys.
exempt
Exempt.
versus non-exempt.
Okay. I gotta start saying that the
Right.
proper way.
Non-exempt people are either hourly.
Yeah.
Heck, they can be salaried. But they're still entitled to overtime.
Yeah.
They're still entitled to meal periods and rest periods.
Yeah.
All of that fun stuff.
Still clock in and clock out and all the things. Yeah. We're doing that, I promise.
I know. I'm sure you are. I don't doubt that. But it's one of those things where, listen, this is one of the most common mistakes that we hear employers all the time say, oh, no, it's fine. She was salaried.
Yeah. No.
And I look at them and I say, that doesn't mean anything to me.
And stop saying that.
Well, I mean, listen, there has been a culture over the years that a salaried person is supposed to be synonymous with an exempt employee, meaning we're going to treat them as though they don't have to get meal periods, rest periods, etc. The problem is those exemptions in California are very tight.
Yeah.
And unless they fit very specifically into a square, you fit that square peg into a square hole, if it doesn't fit perfectly, they revert back to non-exempt. And that's where employers are getting in trouble a lot of the time on these wage and hour claims, because they're assuming that folks are exempt when in fact they're not.
Right. Oh man, that's so helpful, Brian. That's so crucial. Thank you for sharing all of this stuff. I feel like I know you could for sure, but I would always have 100 questions, but I know we could talk for hours. You have so much value that you share with everybody. And I definitely encourage people, we'll get into that in a second, but if you're not following him, when we come back, I'm going to tell you all the places that you can follow him. But thank you for today. When we come back, we are going to play a little thing called Flip the Script, where Brian gets to ask me some questions. This is the Ask Amanda show, so have at it. We'll be right back after we hear from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Marlene Villa. I own Villa Promotionals. I help companies promote themselves through the use of promotional products. You want to put something out there so that you can be remembered. That name and that retention lasts so much longer on a product that client's going to use and value than just a handshake or a business card. I started Villa Promotionals so that I could help companies increase their volume and retain their clients. Many of the businesses I find that we work extremely well with are municipalities, hospitals, colleges, and a lot of our larger clients will be ordering 1,000 to 5,000 items. However, they're going to maybe just need one tablecloth, or they're going to need that one award. Well, we also tailor to that. We actually take the time to make sure that that product is the one that's going to match your business and the goals that you're trying to achieve. We have great communication with our clients every step of the way. They don't have to just hope that it's going to show up that day. We're going to let them know when it's shipped and when it's supposed to be delivered. If you're looking for quality products and customer care for your business, call 661-254-4910 or email us at viapromos@yahoo.com and visit our website at viapromos.com.
Well, welcome back to the Ask Amanda show. I'm Brian Kegley, your guest host for Flip the Script. I would like to personally thank all of Amanda's sponsors for having me here today so that I was able to invest and provide some information for all of you. I'm really excited to be able to turn the attention to Amanda because I've been in the spotlight now for the last half hour or so. And so I've got some really tough, hard-hitting questions for Amanda that are going to get to the core of her business model and what it is she does for you, the listeners. So I'm very happy to be able to do this, Amanda. Welcome to the Ask Amanda show.
You're hired. I don't know what else you want me to say. I do have something that I need you to sign first.
Absolutely. Disclaimers and releases put together by her attorney, if I do say so. So
I adore you.
One of the interesting things that we're dealing with right now, I think, as advisors to businesses is a certain degree of panic.
Yes.
Right? And what I'm curious about, and what I'm hearing from some of my clients, but I'd like to hear about what you're hearing from your clients, from vendors, from your listeners, about whether or not you believe there's a mass exodus from California or not, there is a feeling among business owners that things are becoming more difficult in this state. Yeah. And what are you hearing? How are they coping with these things? And what are they doing to help facilitate their businesses in what's been the most challenging time, at least in our lifetimes?
Yeah, there's no question. I've never seen anything like what we've been dealing with this last, year and a half, 2 years. But it's been very stressful. So a lot of my clients have been reaching out to me with a lot of anxiety and stress. So we talk a lot about self-care, honestly, because if they're not okay, they're not going to treat their employees okay. They're not treating their customers okay. And they're going to start probably making bad decisions. So I try to dial in on are you eating healthy, drinking water, and exercising. Like those are my 3 things I go to all the time.
Yep.
because those three things like help you relieve stress. And a lot of this is all stress based. But I have seen so many people closing their doors and then now what? And so that's been something I don't really know. It's like, okay, then we have to get into like, what are your interests and what other things would you be willing to do? And like, I've been helping people build resumes that I haven't thought that they would need a resume for the rest of their life, you know, because they're changing their whole career now. So I think there is a little bit of a, at least from small business owners, either they're going to just fight through it and do what they can. And luckily circumstance have been able to afford them to do so. Or they're closing their doors and they're thinking about the next steps for their career at, you know, our ages, if you will, or older. And or they're just packing up and going to start over somewhere else.
Well, and the problem that I have with this is this isn't good for business. This isn't good for any business because when we lose a lot of these small business owners, we lose choice. And listen, no offense to my buddy Jeff Bezos out there, okay? Amazon has its place, but we don't need Amazon taking over the world. We need small business. We need that because that is the engine that drives our economy.
100%, yeah.
And if it's hurting, our economy will be hurting.
Well, I think it is. So yeah, I mean, it's been tough. There's no question about it.
So you touched on something. You talked about the mental health aspect of what everybody's going through. Obviously, pandemic has put everybody into a tailspin. Yeah. What are you doing to help maintain your mental health?
Well, I'll tell you what it goes like this, you know, and some of you already, if you're following me on social media, you sort of know. I went through a phase of drinking wine almost every single day, and it started to show everywhere. As you know, it just comes out. And then I was like, oh, this is lasting more than a couple of months, and I don't need my kids to be like, oh, yeah, 2020 mom was drunk the entire year. So I had to challenge that back, but I just went for a walk every day. I made sure I started to move my body for 30 minutes minimum every single day. I listened to a podcast. I tried to listen to something in my headphones that was positive and reinforcement and lifted me up. Sometimes it was music. I just had to get out of that headspace. You know, it's just been an emotional time, but I continue to work out all the time. So, and then I've kind of learned to say no to a lot of things. Like 2021 has given me a lot of opportunity, I have to say, but I've also said no to some things. And if you're one of them, I'm sorry, but it was for a good reason. So it's allowed me to take care of myself and my family. So I didn't just go all in everywhere. I kind of was doing a little bit more picking and choosing. So
good for you.
Yeah, checking in with myself a lot. And I'm choosing joy. That's been my thing. I choose things that make me feel good.
Awesome. But it's hard to say no to people when you're a people pleaser.
100%. And also when you're trying to pay some bills, it's also really hard. But yeah, but I've learned my strengths on my people-pleasing skills. I don't have to please every single person. I'm going to choose the ones that I feel that my strengths will benefit the most. And then that's my choosing joy.
I love it. I mean, I wish more people were doing that.
That's my message for anybody lately, is just to choose things that give you joy.
All right, so give me a choose joy story that doesn't involve you. Tell me some good news that you've heard recently that just resonated.
That's a good one. Well, as you know, nonprofits are starting to come back, and so, which is good. And so this is good news. I feel like in the past couple of months, there has been a nonprofit event back in our community, which our community in Santa Clarita is very big around nonprofit events. First of all, we all love to be social, and you know, any opportunity to do something fun and different where it gives us the opportunity to learn more about the organization and raise money for it is fun and great. But the good news is, I mean, I've seen like 4 or 5 nonprofit events. I co-chaired 2 of them in the last couple of months. We raised thousands of dollars, which we haven't been able to do. And we've had a shit ton of fun. I mean, we
almost made it through the whole thing without our cursing.
I can't do it.
Gosh darn it. Almost. So close.
So close. But, you know, we did a car show, which is a brand new event that we had, which was so much fun. And everybody loved to be out. So like that was like killer. So we've done, those are good news. I think seeing nonprofits come back and raise money and have fun for the community is good.
We're looking at you, nonprofits. We're counting on you to bring some joy back to us. Let us share in your joy, and we will open our wallets again. I promise. I promise. So America wants to know, right?
Oh, here we go. I don't know that all of America's watching, but
I really
thank you for that.
Oh, they do. How do you keep your hair so glossy and shiny?
Well, I'm a vegetarian, so you must be a meat eater because that's what's going on up there.
I am.
Lots of water, and I don't really know. It's just genetics. Actually, funny enough, my dad has the same haircut you have, so I don't know where I get it from.
I like your dad.
Yeah.
I like your dad. That's great. No, obviously,
All right.
I joke. And then my last question for
Yes,
you.
yes.
What in the heck took you so long to get me on this show?
All right. Well, truthfully, I needed you to make partner first. I'm not having just some schmeezy lawyer on this show.
Name's been on the door since October of 2019.
I needed,
Before season
all
1.
right, I needed them to make sure they were going to keep you.
Oh, there you go.
I had a strategy.
Okay, got it. So you got some internal email that I didn't get?
Yeah, I did. I reached out and said, is this legit?
I love it.
And they said, yes. So here you sit.
I love it. I love it.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. And
Sure,
I mean, I know we're good friends, but I know this is your area of expertise. I would not have wanted anybody else to talk to my listeners about these topics. And I'm thankful for you and your knowledge. So,
Well, thank you for having me. As I said at the beginning, I love getting knowledge into the hands of business owners. Education is power. And if you feel confident, like you said, you walk out of these presentations and you feel more confident because you know. You may be scared to death, but you at least know.
yeah, and that's what we need. We need more of that.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that you're getting information into the hands of your listeners so that they understand that you can be the trusted advisor who can make connections
Thank you.
in situations
Yeah.
like this.
So on that note, why don't you tell people where they can find you if they wanted to connect with you? Because I know you had a couple offers through here, but if they want to sit down with you, what's
Sure.
the best way they can reach you?
Sure. So I obviously, we've got locations throughout Southern California. My primary headquarters is here in Santa Clarita, California, where we're proud to say that we're all locals. I've lived in the Santa Clarita Valley for 39 years of my life. So I had a very rough 4-minute commute most of my career here with Poole Shaffery and Kegley. But we are intending to be the law firm for your business, meaning a one-stop shop for any kind of legal advice, counseling, or direction that you may need for your business. We have resources that are available on our website, which is pooleshaffery.com, POOLESHAFFERY.com. You can reach me at my email address, which is bkegley, KOEGLE, @pooleshaffery.com. And my phone number in the office is 661-290-2991. Feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to give you a 15-minute consultation at no obligation. You just reference the Ask Amanda show, and I'll be happy to get you in as quickly as I can. Hopefully, I can help you navigate the rough waters that are California employment law in the 2020, 2021, 2022 seasons.
God, we all need it. Trust me, we need it. Brian, thank you so much. Everyone, I hope that this was extremely valuable for you, and I do wish that you take advantage of his phone number that he just left. And thank you for watching another episode of the Ask Amanda Show.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Do you have a topic you'd love to hear about? Or is there something you want to ask Amanda? Make sure to comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel so you get a notification whenever we post new videos.